and record. Great. We'll just give it a moment. I believe we're already live on Facebook, and have to do another click here. There we are, Beauty and the Beast. I'm the beauty. No, it's the other way around. I'm joking. I'm the beast. No, no,
No,
I'm not. I got that as well.
we are the
Yeah,
beauties and there's the beast system, I would say.
yeah. No, I'm beautiful. See, I took my hood down. All right, so here we are, Sister Nya, and what a ridiculous battle, this has been, and it's prevalent worldwide. But the thing is that all of this systemic child and family abuse is culminating. It's coming to the surface worldwide. More parents are standing up and, taking importantly, taking the matters in their own hands because the entire system the justice system is failing them, and also the lawyers are failing them. And we're seeing this right in this case of yours in Austria. It is the perfect example of the systemic crime that's associated with all of this and this child abuse by the child and youth, let's say, welfare services, that has different names in different countries. And in the US, Child Protection Services, it's the same thing, the same arm. The tactics are all identical. And when I speak about tactics, it's the intentional manipulation to deprive the child from the families, and it's usually the mothers. And it is a very serious issue that has there the amount of children kept increasing and increasing steadily. And that's why it is at the point that it cannot go any further. I mean, again, I'll cite in 2024, I think it is, that in the UK alone, in 1 year, 83,000 children vanished in the UK. This is very serious. Where does all these children go to? And when you look at Europe overall, I believe what was it? Perhaps the numbers are lower, but it's in 50, was it 53,000? But I think it's more than that. Those numbers really, it's much more than that, I think. But nevertheless, everything we say here is in our opinion, and it's best to our knowledge. And also, what we will say when it's factual, when it's incontestable beyond a reason of a doubt. And what I will say, most everything you will hear here in the line of evidence and what we say is factual. And that's why we're openly on here saying the full truth worldwide to everyone. Enough is enough. And we've been hearing this again the last few days of mom standing up. Enough is enough. They see that the system is rigged against them and pinned against them. Hence the systemic abuse at targeting children and mostly mothers. But beautifully, we're seeing some fathers starting to come in as well, which keeps it nice and balanced. And we love this. And our extensive investigation has compiled uh, thorough and incontestable evidence of so many crimes in Sister Nya's case. And not only that, because of our interactions in our investigation, we have been speaking with many, mostly Sister Nya and the evidence and the tactics is prevalent throughout. So there is no disputing what we are saying. I need to make that very clear. With this, I kept rambling. Did you wish to do a German translation summary of what I said before uh, we will begin at what I have on the list is we will begin at the documented violations in your case. But before we do that, if you may just bring our German speaking audience up to date.
Oh, and
Thank
so I have to be quite very honest. I was under the impression that we afterwards we translated, with German subtitles. So I didn't, I didn't have the whole introduction was what you have. I'm not able to translate the whole introduction. So I'm
All
sorry
right.
because I was under the impression we
Oh,
would do again with the subtitles afterwards.
oh, well, this is great. So we just continue forward then. Excellent.
Yes, it would be much quicker, to get all the topics through because
Yeah,
anyway, I will upload it with German translation for everyone.
yeah, that's cool. No, it's warm. I shouldn't have said that. Um, yeah, good. So then, having said that, before I begin, is there anything you wish to add on what I said so far?
No, you did a very great job, with the introduction. And I just want to add the numbers, what we are talking about. I think it was 53,000 in Europe the last 3 years, I think.
Those
And
numbers are very low. They don't match what we were getting
the thing is,
before.
yes, the thing is, it's only the numbers for the unaccompanied minors in Europe. That's
Oh,
the reason. But also the
right.
thing is, it's not checked. I mean, it's out public, the numbers, but we don't know it fully if that is the real number. It could be much, much more, right?
It's
So,
much higher, but let's just say this. If it was just one child, that's not acceptable. So
yes.
yes, yeah. And thank you for saying about my speaking, and I thank you for listening well too when I was speaking.
Yes, I was fully listening. So,
All right. Well, let's get into this, and I've got a list. So we'll begin first with all right. Here's what we have. Number one. So far in Sister Nya's case, what we have is 61 plus documented violations, possibly near 100. They're so numerous that we just did a quick count on what we had readily available, but it's been prevalent throughout. Um, Rights violations and broken laws in Nya's case are incontestable, and there's many of them. And what we wish to say is that no lawyer, judge, or authority has a lawful defense against these laws and violations of rights. Violations committed primarily by BH. And Sister Nya, that's BH, but what is their full name, if you may?
it's Bezirkshauptmannschaft, and it means the head of the district.
That oversees or is part of the child and youth.
It is every district has a PH, which is a Bezirkshauptmannschaft, and most of the district has a child welfare there and the court. So it means like the BH is at the top, and
It's
then
the
there is,
umbrella over,
yes,
yeah, the
the
smaller
head
ones. So
of the court and child welfare, and then you
yeah,
have the higher thing, is the governor with the yeah, with the state government, which is then higher overall the district.
Yes, over that. Yeah. So we have the BH, the main umbrella group that is committing most of these violations, and which is the umbrella group over the child services and the connected agencies all to it. And so what we have documented with all of these violations, these documents establish a criminal pattern, not isolated mistakes. And that's why we say this is systemic, because this pattern is prevalent and is identical to what other, let's say, mostly moms and some dads that we know of are experiencing. So again, this is incontestable what we're saying, and this is huge. So possibly near 100 rights violations, constitutional rights violations, broken laws. It's absolutely preposterous that let's say, a judicial system is even functioning at this time, let alone the BH and the child and youth welfare. So, with that, Sister Nya, anything that you wish to add in there before I go on to another point? And what I tend to do is we'll keep it, there's so much that we're going to go through that I wish to keep it as simple as possible. But when I speak about this, I believe the best way, Sister Nya, is you just elaborate and add on anything that I say with each topic. So that's topic one about the documented violations.
I just
You have
want
anything?
Yes, I just want to add a little bit, because of the structure, with the district, and then the higher one, are the state, and then you have the whole republic, right? But we also went deeper, to see the chain between PH with and the state, the governor, but also with the prosecutor office, with chief prosecutor office. So we went really deep with all the chain of
The
the government.
entire judicial chain. Yes, they've all been informed.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
All been informed, yes. And this brings us into topic number two. They've all been informed, but zero, zilch, corrective action by the authorities. Not a single responsible body has taken steps to fix or investigate the violations, to our knowledge. And with this, our most recent confirmation of this is that the BH has begun another alimony action, which in reality there should be, because it is filed, a case. So what I need to say, it's apparent that even though Sister Nya has a case in there, that the BH is ignoring it and breaking even more laws. So we also see no investigation. Sister Nya submitted a case. It went in. It is sealed, received by the court. No information back from it. No investigation, no suspension of all of the ones involved that are implicated and named in numerous lawful instruments and evidence and dossiers that we have supplied, with all of the conclusive evidence that it should have been for any lawful legal jurisdiction. It should have been just no trial, no court. If there was the law there, these ones would be just handcuffed and put in jail. So it would only be a determining of the sentencing. But what we're seeing is no investigation, no suspension, no review, complete refusal to act by the judicial system and the Republic of Austria, the whole thing. This proves institutional failure and intentional neglect. So, not oversight. It's not a mistake. Anything to add there, sister?
Yes, I just want to expand also a little further and saying, we also included the whole media, all channels here in Austria, but also worldwide. Furthermore, I also want to say all the ministries, but also what I want to add is also, I think you posted, it was in your last post, the grandiose, meaning like it also proves and shows more that they are so self-confident in what they are doing that they just go ahead and just don't just break the laws again and again without
Yes.
thinking that nothing will happen to them. But you can also see the collusion between, for example, the BH, the court, the child welfare, the judge. So it's and the prosecutor office, I have to say, at this point. So
Well, this is very serious. Yes, it's a sinister crime syndicate, and that's what it is.
yes,
And it involves yes, go ahead.
the thing is, people, because this is some kind of trickery, right? You're submitting things and there are enough. Normally, you don't need to work on all the evidence, right, to prove it. They need to investigate. But then, they start to reject it and saying, well, there's nothing, right? You have not enough evidence, but this is not true. So people try to start to think, they have less or they don't. There is nothing, but in fact, also
Intentional dissuasion. Yeah, to dissuade ones from trying to get justice. Yes.
yes, but also, like in our case, if you give them everything, on a tablet, on a plate,
On a
and,
silver platter, here it is. Yeah, yeah.
yes, and
Look,
show them
here,
exactly with
almost
the
100
evidence.
blatant violations. How can you ignore this? Common sense says no. You have
Yes.
to pay attention. Yeah.
Yes, but this is also a problem what I'm seeing because I just want to go a little bit deeper into it because my investigation has shown, especially in Carinthia, where I am in Austria, that until the year, I think around 2000 something, they had some kind of trust fund for victims in children's home or teenager homes being abused. So if you would go and have an evaluator, they would pay you out money. But this is an admission of guilt itself. So they already knew that something is not working there in Carinthia, right? And afterwards, they have changed the whole way how to get the money. They just moved it into the court. So now you need to apply and make a lawsuit to go into the court to get justice, meaning like, my personal perspective and what I'm now seeing is they are very educated, how I honestly have to be very honest to suppress incidences or, just to cover up those things. Because honestly and clearly there are so many cases and nothing is in the media, but also, you don't see much at all, in the newspaper that anyone is winning. So what is now happening also at the same time, you can see in my place, there's a Corinthian guy stepping up who lived, in homes and went through a lot of abuse and now starting to file a lawsuit against the government of Carinthia and the child welfare. So just one thing to add. And afterwards, and now after he's going into the media, um, the prosecutor office came and said, well, we want to investigate now as well. So just sharing this openly.
Mm-hmm. Well, throughout history, Austria has been riddled with scandal after scandal involving children and psychological torture. And it's some of these payouts, it's like on the side, give them a few 20,000 euro or something to keep quiet, perhaps, these sort of things. But importantly, with the media, what we need to say, especially in this huge case, what we are doing, and listeners, this is very important. I believe perhaps the list was about 40 or 50 news medias in Austria, or perhaps nationally Austria and worldwide, that we've given all of this information to about a month ago. And with it, it's incontestable evidence that we have given the news media, all of them, I would say, probably, because I think it was about 40 in Austria, that all the news media had to do was take what we give them and go just speak to a lawyer if they didn't know it themselves. And the lawyer would say, yes, these are all crimes. So typically, any honest journalist would then, boom, they'll say, this is a huge, the most biggest story. They would put it out, but zilch. And this is important because the media also is silenced and controlled in Austria, which is making them an accomplice to this huge crime. So this is very serious what is occurring. Any any competent investigative journalist or news source would have known to protect the children because of the seriousness of these crimes to put this out to the public right away. Zilch, nothing, silence. So this is very important for the people to know when you're thinking about going to the media, do it. Yes, the more that does it, the better. But what we're saying is that there's something very, 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 very wrong when the media has not put out any of this story in Austria and neither internationally to our knowledge right now. We have not seen anything that was put out and no response. And believe us, we have give this case information to some of the biggest investigative journalist news agencies and news stations in the world. Still nothing. And again, this is incontestable. It would take about 5 minutes for a lawyer to look, an honest lawyer, to look at this information and say, whoa, this is criminal. It's incontestable. And this is what we wish to say. Anything else there, Sister? Yeah.
Yes, I can share some of the experience, from other parents who went through this to contact media.
I'm going to step out for a moment. And may you please do that. I'll be right back.
Yes. So I have talked with some of the parents, and they try to contact the media and send them their story. Some didn't receive any responses. Some of them also responded and saying, well, if something with the children is in the story, it's too serious. We don't want to touch it. I also had specific parents who protected their child and were, how to say, they were harmed because they were protecting the child, and they landed in the newspaper in an article, but the whole story was not the real story, what happened. So the thing is, I don't want to go so deep into it because for several reasons, but this is something that I'm just sharing, but also my personal experience is what I'm seeing, especially with the SOS Children Village, SOS Kinderdorf in Austria, is that not everything has been brought to the surface. Meaning, like all the information that are presented to the public is controlled. So that's the reason, because honestly, there are also different kinds of groups bringing a lot of those stories to the surface, especially in Germany. And there are 170 cases in Germany, as well as Kinderdorf. And they were the children were abused through satanic ritual abusement and by very rich people, the elites. And this is not at the surface. And anyone have started investigation against the SOS Kinderdorf in Germany. So I just want to point that out for anyone to understand that there are controlled opposition and how everything is connected and working together. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, sister. Yes, exactly. All right. So
I have to step out for a minute. Just go ahead.
all right. I'll move on to number 3. So with this, and this is very important. So there is the intentional deprivation of justice. So let's say the denial and refusal of justice with this. And this equals to psychological torture. So with this, Austria is still practicing the 20th century style psychological torture. I believe I put this out in a post today, perhaps on Facebook, mentioning the psychological torture. Now, this is very serious because psychological torture is known as an international crime against humanity. It's a very, very serious crime, if you will, which also means that we have also informed at least the World Court, the European Commission, and some others of at least some of the incontestable evidence in this case. And we have not seen any universal or international jurisdiction from any other country or anyone step in here as well, where they are obligated to by law. So again, we don't see anyone stepping up. So this is very interesting. And with this, because of the delaying of justice, the withholding of rights for ones to have justice and, of course, due process, and the inflicting of emotional harm because of the lengthy and non-existent remedy to justice. It is all psychological torture. And this has now been documented as deliberate and systemic. And it is psychological torture, crimes against humanity, because Sister Nya's case is not an isolated case. As we mentioned in the beginning, there are many other moms and dads that have experienced the same sort of abuse with these children taken. And with this, what we are seeing is fraudulent means, manipulation, fabrication of justification by the child and youth centers to take the children. So they're fabricating evidence, if you will, and it's not even substantiating evidence. What we're seeing is that it's conjecture, hearsay, and that it's really not evidence that a judge could even make a decision on. But what we're seeing is judges going right along with conjecture and speculation and listening most of the time to one side of the story, which is biased. It's not a fair system. Without us going through all of the things, if you will, about law. So this is a very serious thing. It's psychological torture that is perpetrated upon the mom, the dad, or the mom or the dad, and the children, the separation from that. and the trauma involved with it. And it's also devious because it's intentional to do this. And as we know in Austria, with its past history, but what's coming out more now is this abuse has continued throughout history. And it's still here today, but it has culminated to such a point, and because of the injustices involved in it, that now it has to come out public worldwide. And that's what's occurring because there is no just system, no just judicial system in Austria. It's all compromised. The politicians, everyone is all part of it. And it's very serious. And as we said in the beginning, if just one child is harmed, that's one child too much. This is absolutely ridiculous. It's psychopathic, it's insanity. And as I've said earlier in other um, interviews that we've did and discussions with this, that it's uh it's absolutely I lost what I was going to say for a moment, but I'll get back to it later. Perhaps, Father, I wasn't supposed to say that, but it was the blatant truth that I was going to say, but I'll get back to it later. Anything on that much, what I've said so far? Yeah.
I just want to add, yeah, you are completely right, but also, I have to point out exactly, what it is. It's genocide, it's slavery, and it's psychological torture because most of the people don't see it. It's slavery. They are taking against their will. They are put into places. They are receiving money for the children. Genocide, taking it away, from their environment, what they are believing, what they are thinking, separating them from the parents and putting them in
Targeting.
a
Yes.
group. Yes,
Targeting the groups. Yes.
yes, and the identity of them. But also, it's so damaging for a child to be separated from the parents. It's the most damaging thing for a child, and also it also affects the short memory of a child while being there. I'm not quite sure. It's so rare that a child is getting back, but also they always kept the child for several months for some specific reason, and also the isolating and the separation from the parents. It's quite intense. And also, what I want to say with you, to get also, back to the PH, with the court system, it's the court in a PH, it doesn't work with normal laws, like family laws, it's the worst, I have to say, because they are going with that rule. They are saying, well, the judge can decide what the judge is taking for evidence, what is real and what not. But this is completely unlawful, right? And also, how she's judging. So you are still in that court. And if you're there, you don't know about your laws and rights, you
Well,
just kept being there. And
well,
you have to fight until it goes to the next court where they just review the human rights and all other laws that are broken. Meaning, like in the district court, they don't go after your human rights, or they don't respect it. So this is very, very. I have to say, this is very unlawful when you look at it. So they are not going by law.
Well, the structure itself of the Austrian judicial system, it's not legal. It's not law. Again, you have the administrative law that the BH operates under, so it's a free, really, it doesn't have any direct oversight on it. That's why it's doing just what it wants. The nearest oversight, I think you're in Carinthia, the next above level would be Peter Kaiser, I think was his name. He would be the next one above, but there you don't see anything from him in the other levels above that are responsible for these lower levels. And they've all been contacted right up to the president and the top of the chancellor Chancellery, you can say that better than me right now, of Austria. We've gone to the Supreme Court. We've gone to the Constitutional Court, meaning that three courts, I believe. So we put the information, the case file with the documented evidence right in front of these ones as well. The highest courts, the Supreme Court and the Constitutional Court. And then that was a joke because the Constitutional Court said, "Oh, we don't do this," when you have all these constitutional rights. And I forget what the Supreme Court said, but it's it's a it's worse than a gong show. It's worse than a kangaroo court. It's primitive. But it's beyond primitive because it has the intent. It's designed to take away all of the laws and the rights from the individual and keep them in the hands of a few, what is supposed to be authority, that are absolutely abusing their power and obstructing justice. And these are some of the criminal crimes that are documented and incontestable in Sister Nya's case. But you have something to say?
Yes, I want to add something, for anyone who's watching. Just to inform you, 1 year before I saw that the child welfare is not acting in the best interest of my children, I already submitted a complaint to the Ombuds office in Austria. And the Ombuds office should be there, to take care that your human rights and nothing is violated, especially in the administration and all the departments. But honestly, they didn't do much. They didn't investigate it and make a lot much worse. And they were included 1 year, 9 months or 6 months before the children were taken. So if you are going to the administration court, which is the highest court for administration here in Austria, you can see there's a reference to the Ombuds office, meaning like they sent you back to the Ombuds office. But honestly, the administration court is the highest court who is normally in charge of all the civil servants. But as Rick already said, with the Constitutional Court, the Administration Court, and the Supreme Court, they don't step in. It's just like they look like, like a decoration. Meaning like they start to blame others, saying, oh, all right, it's not my responsibility, push it away. Or they tell you, to submit anything. But honestly, if you're looking at specific cases, there are also some cases, where you would say that this doesn't make any sense. It's again, like with the TV fee here in Austria, if you don't have any television, you still need to pay the fee. This is theft. That is robbery. And if you don't do that, they try to intimidate and threaten you and execute you that you pay that money. But why should you pay something that you are not using, right?
Exactly.
And the Constitutional Court has allowed this. So is this really working? Honestly. So for everyone who's watching, I have went also other places. We went almost everywhere where we can clearly say and state that no one has stepped in. No one is doing what they should do, and we know exactly what they're doing. And they have, Constitutional Court has to step in and has to check that the constitutional laws are followed, right? So, but also, civil servants or politicians or whatever, some of them are swearing oaths that they will follow the laws, that they will not break their codex, but still they are doing it. But also, furthermore, civil servants are sometimes also often in political party, which makes them immune for something. But this is also unlawful because
I need to.
Yes.
Yeah. But I need to say, with intentional chronological liars and criminals, that it doesn't matter if they say an oath because they break it. So an oath doesn't mean anything to psychopathic criminals. They are notorious liars. They are chronic liars. And because they are a liar, an oath means nothing to them. It does nothing for the people at all. Because this is why today I put out the psychological evaluation of government, and I showed all of these things. And many of the things that we've encountered here is in that lengthy psychological evaluation of the government of Austria.
Yes, I
And it
want.
is, you don't have these sort of things. It's criminal.
Yes, but most of the people even don't even know that there are some kind of codexes and offs, but also that they are not obliging to it. But also at this point, I have to say, honestly, to see the whole government and courts, no one of them is swearing off to God. So I felt like when I dive deep into it, it feels very honestly, godless, because I think only one in the past one politician has voluntary swear off to God. It's also, when you are going to court and you have to swear off that you are not lying, you don't do that, to father, to prime father. So I just want to add this as well.
Hmm. Yeah. All right. So, yeah, just quickly then for clarity, when you went to court in the past to attempt to defend yourself, did you have to swear on a Bible or swear to God that you would tell the truth? Was there any oath or swearing process like that when you went to court?
So the last time when I went there, the only thing, the judge is looking at you and she's asking you, "Are you swearing, an oath that are you swearing an oath?" That's the only thing. She doesn't repeat anything, and you just say yes or no. So in this case, you just say yes,
Is that the exact words that the judge said? Are you swearing an oath?
something like this. Yeah, I cannot recall that.
Because that is pretty vague for the simple reason if she just says, "Are you swearing an oath?" without specifying what it is, you could be swearing an oath of deception and lies.
Yes, the thing is, I think, just let me remember how it was, when I was in court. I think at least something, to speak the truth or something, but it was very short and it was very quick.
All right, yeah,
So
so it did contain it. Yes, an oath, yes, and a swearing in to speak the truth and nothing but the truth. But
no, not in that
again,
way, not in that way like in America. So it's very, yeah.
but to speak the truth, I mean, that was specified in the oath. Yes. But again, uh, oaths mean nothing to chronological liars. And,
Yes.
let's say it's my understanding with the alleged father, your ex, that in that court, he was there that last time that he took an oath. However, while he was in court, uh, he was, let's say, you would ask him at least some questions that would have proven that he was lying, but the judge intervened and said he didn't need to answer. So that was an obstruction of justice, of course, there in that incident. But did he lie in the last court?
Yes.
And there you go. So there, he swore an oath to tell the truth, yet he lied in
Yes.
court because this is the thing. Oaths are no good for these ones. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Can I go on to number four?
Yes.
All right. We got number four here. The children harmed and put at risk. Now, let us say, you might ask, how are the children harmed? Well, the first thing that the children were harmed is taken from their mother, screaming and crying, well, crying at least in a police station when they're taken from the mother, put in complete traumatic stress when they're unlawfully taken. This is the thing. And also with the great love that we showed in the last visit, I think it was Sister Nya had with the children, or the second last, when they were in the center, the great love where you see um, Akua coming up and hugging Mom and Aurora. They're hugging all together. You see the beautiful love that is there. And with this, by separating the children, from the motherly love, is there's harm just in that itself. So, um, what we are looking at is one thing, I'll just mention it lightly, that the children were given into the custody of the father. But one of the past incidents is that the father had the children um, and was drinking alcohol. And I believe it's more than once. And this is documented without getting into it. And, anyone, all right, if you're watching children, should you be drinking alcohol? So, I mean, it's common sense not to be, let's say, perhaps a beer is all right, but let's say if you have a couple beer and you're driving a vehicle with the children in, that's a no-no. So without going deeper into that, but
Yeah,
it does exist, or unless you wish to, and I'll just step out
I,
for a moment.
I just want to add one small thing with it.
Go
You
ahead, I'll be
look at
right
that
back.
way.
Yeah.
All right. So, all right. The thing is, if you would, for example, if you would hire a babysitter and that babysitter would drink while it is taking care of your child, would you give your child to that babysitter? This is a good question here because if you would look on yourself, I know here in this culture is somehow normalized, but the thing is, you are not fully clear-minded in case if something is happening. But also, you wouldn't give your child to a babysitter who is drinking, while taking care of the child. So this is something I would say everyone has to think of it. Also, if someone, for example, your children are going to the kindergarten or to the school, and the teachers are drinking around during school or kindergarten. So this would make not any sense. So, like in other institutions, if you are taking care of the children, there is no drinking or drug or anything allowed. You have to stay clear-minded for in the best interest of the child, because the child has the highest priority. Yes.
Yeah, jokingly, I had to move some stuff so the waves didn't wash it out. So
Yes, I
no,
thought.
that's a joke. It's actually cold here, as you can see. It's quite a contrast, but I love this picture. It helps warm me up some. All right, should I continue with the notes? Oh, we're still on the children put at risk. So yeah, the children were forced into unsafe conditions, both in the crisis center and also where they are in the alleged father's custody at this time. So both are unsafe conditions. And let's look at one of the indications why the children were in the crisis center. When Sister Nya went in there on one occasion when she was allowed to visit them, the children were signing their own statements, if you will, the children were signing that they wanted to be with the mom because that's what they truly want. And Sister Nya was getting it on paper, you know, what the children wanted. So Aurora, the girl, the oldest, she signed hers, I believed. And then Sister Nya was going, Akua was the boy, was going to sign his. And all of a sudden, one of the supervisors there did something that put him in extreme fear all of a sudden. Now, normally, if you have, let's say, a supervisor that is always nice, there is no reason for the child to be afraid. But if you have an abusive supervisor, the child is going to be afraid of her. And if she's very abusive, he's going to be very afraid. And this is what occurred as one incident in the Child Crisis Center, but also with bruises on Aurora, unexplained bruises and a cut. I think 2 cases of that while in the crisis center's custody.
I just have to correct
Yes.
you because I was never ever in a crisis intervention center. So they brought the children to a visiting cafe, which is a private sector of the child welfare, to have a supervised visit there. So just to correct that, I've never been to the crisis intervention center. They never let me
All
in.
right. Thank you. Yeah, it's all the same because it's part of
Yes,
the establishment, but this is very
yes.
important, yes, for you to clarify that. We wish to keep everything truthful and exact. So thank you. Yes. So the children are harmed and put at risk, and especially emotional manipulation. And with this emotional manipulation, it occurred where the children were being held at with phone calls when Yav would attempt to have a conversation with them, but also their behavior began to change. And let me say, during the whole course of this, but that's outside of that. Uh, the emotional manipulations. Here's another thing that's very important related to this. For any of you that saw the video of the great love of Sister Nya and her children, now, when the alleged father got unlawful custody, Sister Nya said for the children to call her any time. That's been months ago. The children did not call at all. So it's obvious that the alleged father did not tell the children in the least. And when that occurs, this means that there is manipulation that is going on. And of course, where these children have the great love, that is emotional manipulation, which is also harm. So the system is protecting the wrongdoer and is targeting the innocent parent, which is Sister Nya. And they're doing this intentionally, as we can prove and as we have proven more than once now. This contradicts every Austrian and EU child protection obligation. So listen again to what I just said. It contradicts every Austrian, the nation, the country of Austria, but the EU itself of these child protection obligations. And it goes even beyond that. Anything to add on that one right at this time?
Yes, 2 points, just to bring it up to the surface.
Mhm.
1 point, yes, there were 2 incidences where I would have known because they have isolated very quite much from I, so see them quite often. I only see them 2 times. And I have to say that, the taking of the child's blood without my consent, 2 bruises, one bruise when she was brought into the crisis center, intervention center, and the second bruise, what I have seen when I was when I was allowed to see them from them. Those incidences were forwarded to the child welfare, but also to Department 4, which is the head of the child welfare in Carinthia, which is also known currently in Carinthia for knowing of abusement of children in the SOS Kinderdorf and didn't do anything. So this department was dissolved. So I'm just sharing this. But also, I
Just
saw other.
so recently, yes, because of ongoing cases of abuse, because the cases are becoming so numerous. Yes, and it was obvious. So part of that is imploding, breaking down. Continue, please.
Yes, exactly. Just give me a moment. I wanted to add something else with it. Oh, yes. Just recently, just today, I just figured out, as you know, the children were separated from I, and I was never allowed to have a private chat with them. Never. So my suspicion is, yeah, you don't actually know what they are telling them. But I had a mother coming back to I today, and she shared her incident with me where her child was being taken from the school, and she actually was sitting at home and she didn't know. They told the son then that his mother is psychological sick and he has to go into the crisis intervention center. And at this point, she was at home. Later on, when the doctor came, he told her to go into a psychological treatment into the hospital. As you can see, the timeline, it doesn't work out. So as you can see now, they have worked together, telling him in advance that his mother is psychologically sick and is under treatment, but she was still at home waiting for her son. And then later on, when she asked for help, she was manipulated by the doctor to go into the hospital. So as you can see, you cannot clearly know what the children knows, but also, this was 2 years ago. So her child just recently now has opened up and shared this openly with her. So, just show how, yes.
And this is so important because what is occurring is that the children that were in these places are now beginning to speak, and as more has to be released because the children were taken unlawfully. The children has so much testimony and evidence as well to put out to the public. And what I will say is that I know it's going to be extensive because of all of the present and past history of abuse, child abuse in these places. So they're subjugating the children to great harm, perhaps pedophilia, sexual abuse, physical abuse, and just going back to Aurora with that cut that she had on her leg and that huge bruise that she was supposedly just got it from riding her bike when it's on the back of her leg. It just did not add up, and it looked like a cut with it as well. So, nevertheless, shall I continue, sister? Yeah, on number
Yes,
5.
please.
All right. So, and this is important, growing evidence of lawyer complicity. So I'm going to say one thing, and Sister Nya can fill this in. Um, First thing I'm going to say, lawyers advised parents not to report abuse. I think you have perhaps 2 examples of that. You don't need to name names, but I think you have at least that or perhaps more. Lawyers advised parents not to report abuse.
Yes, at least I have now one case where the child was abused, have shown symptoms, have shown different kind of, it's a very young child, but also, being afraid in the dark, which it was not before, having problems to have a shower, but also had bruises all over.
But the
So
lawyer said, like, to the mom and the dad or what have you, don't mention that in court.
the thing is, I have to just shortly go into the story. It means like they have reported it to the police, and none of them had helped them. So they tried to protect the child. But the thing is, they couldn't. So they arrested them, and the lawyer told them, if you don't have full, clear evidence, you cannot say this. Take it back. Otherwise, you would stay in prison longer. So as you can see, the lawyer has worked against them. But I honestly have so many examples where lawyers are in collusion with the judge or the child welfare or the court, and parents even didn't know, because honestly most of them are so overwhelmed and traumatized in that situation that they don't want to have anything to do with it. They don't look at the evidence or at the court protocol or what have you, and this is the reason for it. They just blindly follow everything that the lawyer is saying, and also don't know about the laws.
Yeah,
And that
so
happened to me
they
as well.
trust, yeah, they trust the lawyers. Yeah, and in your case, I believe you have at least one example of where your lawyer advised you not to say something about the acts, and we can just leave it right there about the alleged father in the past, which is very important, perhaps, to have mentioned. So you
Yes.
can just, yes, yeah,
Yes, the case is in Austria. There are two different kind of cases: one for alimony and one for custody. And when it went to pay alimony for the child, the ex started to say that he's depressive, that he has a psychological problem, and that he's not able to work. And he said, I'm in fault that he's depressive. So he tried to get an evaluator in front of the court that would confirm his depression, but they couldn't. They just figured out that he was lying and trying, to turn everything around. So this was in a court protocol. So it ended up that he had to pay back then. And then I said to my lawyer, well, if he's saying he's depressive and he's not able, to take care of the children, which I know he's often starting to drink if it comes to things that he don't like to do or something, but this is not a depression. But the thing is, my lawyer told me I cannot use that. I cannot say this because there are two different cases. So the case about alimony where he's saying he's depressive has nothing to do with the custody case where he needs to take care of the children, which doesn't make any sense at all.
well, absolutely. That's ridiculous and preposterous for a lawyer to say that. So, in the least, with just these few examples, this demonstrates system-wide compromise, not isolated corruption. So what it means is that the lawyers are also complicit and involved in these things to instruct, let's say, their clients, the parents, not to say things about abuse and other behavior that determines and is very important in an evaluation and determining process, a decision with a judge with deciding who gets custody, blah, blah, blah. But also, what we need to say with this ongoing case of Sister Nyaz, we have also informed 10 or perhaps 13 of the biggest law firms in Austria, but also international law firms. We have given this case and information to. And what this is, a lawyer is supposed to know the laws, meaning that a lawyer does not tell one to refrain from giving important information. And also, more importantly, when a lawyer is in the court, when the judge and let's say psychological evaluator and child welfare are manipulating and coercing and targeting a parent, the lawyer has a duty of obligation because he is a representation of law to stand up against it and to stop it and not allow it. Because if the lawyer does not do this, when he sees a denial of due process, obstructions of justice occurring, then the lawyer becomes complicit and becomes an accomplice of the crime. So this is why we say it's system-wide compromise as well, that the lawyers are part of it. Someone has to speak for justice. And when the lawyers do not stand up, when they see these violations in court, then they are as guilty more than by association. They are an accomplice with the crime and they become complicit.
Oh, I just want to add something which is very important also to bring out is worldwide there are a lot of cases, especially mothers, where they have undergo, domestic violence with their partner, where also criminal cases were opened, but they don't use it in a family court. Just separate the court and just give the violent a father or a partner the child anyway. So I just want to bring it up just to show how the family court is corrupted.
And with that, we had a beautiful Bandy Lee, one of the renowned psychologists and psychiatrists and has done extensive work. And she has mentioned these tactics are prevalent in the US and in her battles against the corrupt system in the US, the same tactics. And we could go to any country, let's say in the Western world, and we're going to see the same things because not only see ones need to understand that it takes more than just the child welfare to be criminal, meaning that they cannot be criminal if you have a just judge, if you have just lawyers, because it would block it. So what this means is that they are all complicit into it. And when you see with Sister Nya's case, when we go from the bottom up to the judge, then we inform the DH, if you will, and when we begin to inform all levels of the judicial system right up to the Supreme and Constitutional Court, and then we also inform the Chancellor and the President of the Republic of Austria right at the top, and nothing happens, you have this full chain of complicity. It's corruption. Yes, right to the very top. I'm going to just bear with me. I'm going to go inside. It's a little bit warmer. You can see the wind's picking up out here.
I
One
may
moment.
also want to add something with cases I have seen where there are court decision for the benefit of the parent, but still there are some cases in Switzerland where still the CASP in Switzerland don't give the child back. Some cases like that, and the mother is still saying to me, well, but it worked, the system. I was like, no, it doesn't. If it would work, you have your child back, but still they can do whatever they want. It's just an illusion. So I also saw other cases here in Austria where the child were allowed to go back to the mother, at least at weekends, but still the child welfare just went against it. So as you can see, it can have different kind of forms, but if the whole system doesn't work, it will went that way, because I often have to talk with parents and saying, well, if it would work, they would never have taken your child, and there would be justice and there would be no crime. So yes, this is something, that I really wanted to share as well, for once, to see that there are also different kind of combinations to it as well.
Yes, and also with this, the system, if it was fully taking every child, let's say in the past, it would be too conspicuous. So to make the system work, sometimes they got to show that some win. So then it shows, to keep the cover up going. So what they would say, no, might only be one out of 100 that will win, but it's a staged event, in my opinion, that they'll allow one to win just to make it look good so that they have something to reference to cover their tracks. So why they got 99 children taken, they're very happy with that. And what they'll say, instead of looking at the 99 we took, look at the one that we set free. And these are distraction tactics by the by evil and ones and criminals. There is the craftiness that comes with it. And believe me, everyone, I know because of divinely who and what I am, and I know what the evil does, and I know all of their tactics.
Yes.
Now, see what else we got. So,
Oh, I just want to add, this also goes,
yes,
to children homes as well. So it must not be, that in every children's home the children were abused, but you know, uh, like with the SOS Kinderdorf, some you can see they're abused and some are not. It's the same with the cases. So if everything would be that way, just to point that out.
well, yeah, because also there's certain children, certain stereotypes, and certain types that are targeted as well. You need to look at what occurs is that they have made a business out of it also with worldwide markets and foster parents, but everything is set up because the money that is made off of this is absolutely ridiculous. It is a very huge what's the word, a lucrative business. It's so attractive, if you will, to the ones. So also, they began to specialize, like, and believe me, I love all children, race and creed. It doesn't matter. But there are ones that will preference to have an oriental child, if you will. So within the process, accommodations are made with preference for that, just as an example. And really, this does go very deep and it is very sinister
Yes.
without going deeper in it. So, do I move forward?
Yes, I just step out for a while. Just go ahead.
All right, yes. So, next one, judges acting without lawful basis. And, we've touched on this before. These judges are, let's say a judge is supposed to be fair. So they're supposed to be equal justice and fairness. And what that means is objectivity of a judge being objective and a judge being impartial. So, what you are actually seeing with what is occurring with these cases is that you're seeing the judges are partial, that they're biased as well, and that they're making decisions without facts, without evidence or proper hearings. So what they are doing is the judges are making decisions on fabrications that are made by the child and youth welfare. And also, they're making decisions that are not factual, that it's hearsay, it's conjecture in cases. We see this explicitly in Sister Nya's case, where the judge defies all reason. You know, she, the judge in part of this case with Sister Nya in the beginning would not allow her to speak. When she was pressured, the judge, in the last time that Sister Nya went to court, she was allowed to speak. The court lasted for 7 hours. And all of the information that Sister Nya gave, the judge ignored it. It didn't matter. So again, this is bias. She was not biased that she denied her of due process the last time, but previous that she did. The same judge denied due process. So we sent an email and letters to the judge before the next court saying how she was biased. So in the next court, the judge allowed Sister Nya to speak, but it didn't matter. The judge just disregarded all of it. And when in the court, when Sister Nya began to cross-examine the witness, the ex, if you will, the judge intervened and told him he didn't have to answer her questions. And at least one of Sister Nya's questions would have exposed the ex as being a liar, but the judge intervened. So this is, again, bias, if you will, but it's an obstruction of justice too, and much more. So recorded patterns of bias, manipulation, assumptions treated as fact. And this is by the judges. We're speaking about the judges. And what we are seeing is judicial actors are now linked to multiple overlapping cases with Sister Nya, with CC, Sister CC we had on was our last one. We interviewed, had the same judge and others, revealing a coordinated pattern. So it's not an isolated case. It's not just one mistake that a judge is making, but a judge cannot make these mistakes because they're not lawful. A judge is learned in the basis of law, in the importance of being impartial, objective, and not going on conjecture, speculation, or hearsay. So there is no excuse for the judge, if you will, to accept and rely on that kind. It's not evidence, it's what it is. So it's showing a coordinated pattern, if you will, that this judge, in at least two cases, what we're saying here tonight, Nya and Cece, has acted, if you will, the same. Anything to say on that, Sister Nya?
I just want to add also the falsification and the withholding of evidence, which is quite often popping up as well. Also the threatening and the intimidation in front of the court. I also remember she was telling me at that point, she was like trying to put guilt onto me, how I make her angry because of all my accusations, what I have brought of all the violations of laws, you know, with my submission as well. So as you can see, my honest opinion is they know that you're a perfect mother. You know, they know you're a good mother, and they know when you are truthful. They know it. And that's how they are working, because you honestly know that the ex isn't lying. So that was the point you jumped in. That is the point where she left out specific information like, yes, he said he's drinking while driving, but that
Yeah,
thing
that's
never
fine.
popped
Yeah,
up in
go
the
ahead. Yeah,
protocol.
you drunk, drive the children, that's fine. Yes, you're spending time with the children. How nonsensical and ridiculous is that by a judge? I mean, come on. You're dealing with a family and a family safety here.
Yes, but also, saying, I'm not able, to make future decisions for my children, and I'm not
Oh,
stable,
yeah,
but questioning me for 6, 7 hours. And, if they want to ask the ex, and she was like, well, she wrote in the protocol, he is overwhelmed because he didn't saw their children so long, but in the same time, being biased and questioning me for 6 hours. So as you can see, this is, as you said, a completely biased pattern, but also they know who they are targeting. So they are targeting, they have targeted me since years, and you can see it in the whole chain of government and all involved civil servants, um, who is working together and how they are targeting me and intimidating and threatening and all those kind of things, as you know. So I just want to bring that up.
yes, and also the money involved in it. It become very obvious in your case. No matter what you did, no, they had their mindset on getting the children because one of the reasons is the huge amount of money that's involved with all of them. And that's what made them so desperate. One of the reasons that they became so desperate to defy all laws and justice, to fabricate evidence and manipulate and coerce and intimidate ones to get the children, to get the money. That is one reason why they wanted the children. So it becomes very obvious. It's absolutely ridiculous that this sort of crime would exist today, especially in any court involving children. And it defies, oh, you got a child and youth service protective agency. They're doing the total opposite. They are harming the children and the families. It's absolutely ridiculous, but I'll stop there. I
Yes,
could say ridiculous 2 million times, and I don't know if I would say it enough.
yes, but also there's the typical pattern, they try to control, suppress, and diminish you with the weakest point you have, and this is more normally, your children. But also, if they don't find anything, they go further, with the money and trying to put fear into you and threatening you. So this is another thing what they're doing with the money, trying to put the financial burden onto mothers and all
And,
those.
and yes, and I believe this is the perfect divine time to say this about part of what they're currently trying to do. So I'll keep this simple for the audience that in the past, and I'll say this, yes, because this is my full opinion, but it's also my belief that in the past, the psychological evaluator, the child welfare, all of those involved, and the judge, I will say, conspired, if you will, to make Sister Nya look like she had a psychological problem. And the reason I say there's the conspiracy is because of the psychological evaluator, which had a discourse which was not admissible for court. The judge should have known it, but she didn't. But also, the way it was written said it was not substantiated. Yet the judge relied fully on the court or on the discourse, and they wanted to make it look like Nya was an unfit mother, had psychological problems, and what have you. And now what is interesting, so, the judge was satisfied, yeah, is not fit to have the children. We give the custody to the alleged father. But now what occurs in a certain ongoing proceeding is that the court is saying, oh, the mom's fine, perfect health. Now she's got to go to work full time to pay alimony to the alleged father for the children because the alleged father cannot work and look after the children. But in the last court, the judge and I believe the evaluator or the child welfare, I believe it was said in court, they asked the father, but they had already investigated. Yes, the father said, I can work, I can provide for the children, everything is fine. So what you see is all these contradictions and intentional manipulation, again, to target Sister Nya to make it look like she's sick. So they take the children, and then once they got the children and put it where they wanted to put the children with the alleged father because he's a part of the conspiracy with us in the collusion, then they say, oh, no, miraculously, Nya is in perfect health. So now she's got to pay alimony for the children. And the children all along, everyone needs to know when we go right back to when the children were taken on that first day, they were taken unlawfully and also with fabricated evidence to take the children, saying the children were in imminent danger, but also court orders that was not even there, and also missing police reports and what have you, whatever it was. So this is part of the conspiracy. Do you wish to add anything, sister?
Oh, yes, I may want to make something public because I just recently figured it out and I feel to make it public because of the alleged father. So in Austria, there are procedural assistance, what you can apply in case you have not enough money to go through specific court proceedings or to pay the evaluator. So back then, I think in February, he applied for this because he have also consented to the evaluator. And he has submitted
Evaluator, you mean psychological
with the
evaluator?
psychological evaluator. And he has submitted this into the court. And I just recently saw this. And I was like, oh, wow, that's interesting. You know, normally this procedural assistance, which is from the government, is only applied to you if you really have no money. But the thing is, you know, having two cars, a motorbike, a big tiny house building between 60 and 100,000 euros, an open order for a new tiny house, which he had spent, you know, a lot of money into the wood and all those kind of things, meaning like it shows that he don't have money because it's a minus right now, but it's completely not if he's finished with the house and sold it afterwards. So meaning like normally they shouldn't have ever allowed him to get procedural assistance because he had enough money. And also, you know, again, with the alimony he's now trying to get from I, if, you know, normally this is not, I think it's also unlawful if someone has enough money, go to the other parents who have no money and try to execute them below their existence minimum under 75%. So I'm just showing this, but also, you know, in the same time, I think in September 2024, he filed for a penalty fee against I, 1,000 euro. So I had to come to court, and also, you know, violence through police if I don't apply. And at this point, I think the judge have allowed 500 euros. But at the same time, he stopped to pay the alimony when he did this. So I just, I just want to make this public, just to share this, because I felt too, because this is also more evident and showing more of his character and all the things, what's going on. Thank you.
Yeah, yes, you're well. There was something I thought of adding, but if I think of it, we'll come back and add it. I mean, truthfully, everyone that's watching, uh, if we were to give you all of the full count of everything and show you every law that was broken, and we would be quite long doing that. But we can assure you this is one of the reasons we're public, because this is uh, incontestable evidence, and what we are seeing here, it's systemic and it's very serious, and many children and families are at risk as a result of this, especially when we look at the increased numbers of children taken just in the last year, or I think 2024, or if please correct me, like almost 1,000 children just in Carinthia alone in 1 year taken. But this brings me to a question. You've lived, Sister Nya, in Carinthia for at least several years. You've had interaction with the people. You know what the crime rate is like around there. And just if you consider a few of these things, what is your perspective of the people in Carinthia that you have seen, or have you seen much bad behavior in the news? What are the people like? Like, if you're to look at the people that you do see and that you do know, and are they the type of people that would be abusing children?
Um,
They're all children.
I have to say, especially in my region, it's a very great place with a lot of lakes. There are many people who are quite awakened, not to that extent that we would know, but they are very in connection and caring about the children, especially in my village. They are coming in, like farmers or other parents teaching children, to bake bread or, do other things. And especially in my village, they have slow food, meaning like they're focusing more on quality and everything is processed, in alignment rather than fast food. But
I've been to your area. There is a good selection of organic food around there as well, right? And when you look at that, like where there's quite a selection, that means there is a high demand for organic food. And when you look at parents, if they're buying organic food for themselves and for their children, again, it's not the typical families that would be abusing children. The point I'm getting, when you look at the socio demographics, if you will, to give it that name, it's absolutely um, eye-opening to see. I think it was almost 800 children taken from, I've been through there too. Place feels good to me. It doesn't feel like there's bad people that would abuse their children. So that number is extremely high. So the point I was making is that the character of the people around there are not bad people, the common people that has children and families.
but I also have something to add with is my experience from the cases I'm watching, but also, with the interactions with other parents, is that most needs assistance from the child welfare or really where they at. So mostly the children are taken that are already, in a very warm and caring setting and family. Meaning, like, also while going through a lot of cases, the most of the parents who are very caring and listening to the needs of a child and also listen to their voice, they are normally, it's a normal behavior, you know, to not oblige, you know, to, like, if something like the child welfare is coming in and try to force some kind of things onto you, and you would say no, that's not in the interest of a child. So then you would be labeled as uncooperative, or if you would not align, you know, with how they are perceiving society, they will flag you and they will take the child.
So
Or
it's like it's premeditated then. Let's say it's very possible, and what it's looking like is that the child welfare will will have a target child beforehand, and then it's looking like then the child welfare will stage something or look for an excuse to get that targeted child because it's about money and the entire chain of it, and the intent is about the money. So whatever kind of fabricated things they can make up to get the children to get the money, and this is what it's about. And one of the examples I love using is the child in Norway that was 1 pound underweight, and they took the child, which is absolutely ridiculous. But they look and they make up the most stupid, silliest things to take a child. Then the judge agrees with them. Yeah, that child's underweight, 2 ounces. Take the child. It's the same as with you, what you were saying. Oh yeah, the ex he drinks and drives with the children. Judge said that's fine. You don't drink, sister. Nah, you cook good organic vegetable food for the children. You take care of them. They love you. You love them. But that's not appropriate. We got to put the
that's
children
endangerment.
in a place of harm, huh?
That's endangerment for the child.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, to be have a healthy and loving, caring, nurturing lifestyle. Exactly.
But
Yeah.
I may want to explore a little bit more on the pattern. So my pattern is also systemic with parents who are informing about physical or psychological violence. Then the victim perpetrator role is switched. The mother is being separated, isolated from the child, cannot ask the child anything anymore, and don't have any visits with the child anymore. This is a one pattern. The second pattern is, you know, for example, you are overwhelmed as a mother, you are asking for help, they are coming in, taking care of the child, but never give them back anymore. This is the next pattern, what I can see, where they are taking the child. But also sometimes I also met parents or mothers especially who have been taking that child several times, meaning like every time if they have another child, the child has been taken. So I also saw a case, you know, with a mother with 7, 8 children, right? And every child was taken. But there's also another pattern, meaning like if you were taken as a child or you were in a children's home as a child, it's premeditated that your child would be taken also afterwards. So,
Yes, because you're observed and targeted. Yes, with surveillance, that becomes obvious as well. Yeah,
so these are very common systemic pattern as well.
absolutely. I was going to say something, but that went. But I'll perhaps go on to the next.
Oh, yes, I have something to add
Yes.
because this is very important because we only had some kind of suspicion in the past, and I have talked with someone and he shared me a real incident from a child welfare whistleblower. So just to make it short, I don't want to share the whole story, but just one story that there are indeed sometimes, you know, because nowadays it's very hard to get a child through adoption. So what they are doing is to apply for a foster family so you can quicker get any child. So what then is happening sometimes is, for example, there was a case where there was a very rich doctor couple and paid a child welfare social worker, and that worker get the child from a young girl quite after she was given birth. So she was still under medicaments, and she was also forced to sign the paper to give the child welfare worker the baby. The thing is, it only came up because that child welfare worker was not intelligent enough and went to that appointment, with a very, I would say, a very expensive car. So as you can see, there are also some cases that I have already heard that they are already foster families waiting and already have set up everything and also the documents with specific workers. So they are just waiting until the baby's, the mother is giving birth, and they just said something like, all right, you are overwhelmed, we are taking the baby. So there's no reasoning, there's no endangerment with it.
And thank you. And what I wish to add here right now is that, well, the first thing come in, what I wish to say is that, I've been looking and monitoring around the world the countries that are going into depopulation mode. And what this means is that more is dying and less children are being born. So, right at this time, what is occurring worldwide, and it's unprecedented and it is increasing. I think there's 75, maybe 71 countries, because it's changing, are now in depopulation mode worldwide. And Austria is one of those countries.
And Italy.
And thank you. And this is important because with the big demand for children in this big market that they have, this big business, what it's doing is making where there's being less and less children born. This also explains why the huge increase in Corinthia and the targeting of more children to its market, its supply and demand. So where there's less children being born all around the world, then it means they've got to target more and more of the children that are there. And this increases the risk on every child in Austria, in every family. You may be a model family caring for your children, but what we are saying is if your children become targeted, what we are seeing is that there will be fabricated evidence because it's all premeditated to get the child. And you'll be manipulated, you'll be intimidated, you'll be coerced if they want that child. Now, also going back, I just remembered one thing. When they take the children, they cut off that communication with the mom. And this is part of the psychological programming and conditioning. And what you're looking at here, it's also falls into the human experimentation, which is illegal, unlawful worldwide, if you will, again, because you began to get into the crimes against humanity, human experimentation, and psychological torture and conditioning, where what they began to do is when they separate a child from the mom, they began to rob the child's identity. That's why they keep that disconnect, so that they separate the child, but they take away the child's identity of the relationship with the mom. And this is done intentionally. And what they then begin to do is program and condition the child to be away from the mom. So it's done intentionally as part of the separation tactics without going deeper into it and what they call psychological they call it a clinical process and what have you, but what it involves is in the least is the psychological conditioning and experimentation.
Reprogramming. Because mostly, it always takes, for some reason, they always want to have that 3 months of complete separation and isolation. And what often happens is that the child then starts to attack the mother or hates the mother or the parent. And when this happens, what
That
are
is
you
the
doing?
intentional parental alienation, what the child welfare does itself. It alienates the child from the parent. And this is part of the alienation also of the child's identity.
But furthermore, also, children, especially those, going into teenager age, they start to attack their own parents or filing for lawsuits with things that never happened. But I just want to just link that, to the situation years ago in, I think, somewhere in North Italy, where it came to the surface that they were brainwashing and manipulating the children with masks, and trying to pretend they are the parents. So it's very vile. And the thing is, the parents and the child starts to separate. So what are they doing then with the children? They are pushing them to different state. Are the children still in Austria? You don't know it, right?
One
Because
of
the
the
parent
first
is,
things with the
yeah.
psychological program, when they separate the child, and this is evident in your case, that then they begin to instill fear in the child, to intimidate the child to listen to the authority. And this instills the fear in the child, which makes that separation bond more because the child is in stress and in trauma. And when you have a supervisor that says, if you say anything or if you speak to your mom, we got you here in this prison, if you will, and we're going to hurt you. And this is very evident with little Akua when he just went to sign that thing, when the supervisor, whatever she did, I think, will you please just share what occurred with that again? And I'll be right back with Akua, because this clearly shows that the supervisor had did something that had scared Akua very bad for him to act like that.
Yes, so back then, when I was under a supervision visits with the children, I asked the children if they want to stay with me and if they want to stay in the crisis intervention center. And they said they don't want to be there, they want to be with I. So what I then did was I asked them if it is fine with them, to sign that, to have it documented. And they said yes. But at that point already, the supervisor started, to threaten and intimidate me and saying no, and I have to give her, the paper. And I said, no, you cannot do that. That's my letter, and you cannot force me to give it to you. So Aurora was able, to sign it. But when it came to Akua, he wanted to sign it. He was standing there and he's just started to sign, but then the supervisor stepped up, started to intimidate and looked at him in a very, I would say, in a very bad way, because I could literally felt it. Akua literally had so much fear that he broke. He broke down. He fell onto the ground, and he was so confused. He had to distract himself. So he had some kind of toy in his hand, and he started, to nervously hold it, and doing some kind of things. And I started, to, yeah, I hugged him. I started, to tell him everything is fine. Just let go. Mommy is here, and all those kind of things. So as you see, there, I've never seen Akua reacted in that way, because in the past he was very powerful. If something like this happened, he would say no. not with but I've never seen him, just falling onto the ground, being in that traumatized state again, like revisiting such a traumatized state. And this shows all, and how they are manipulating and controlling them. But I also have to say, I had once a chat with Aurora over the phone, and I remember I shared with her, about chlorine, and how unhealthy it is, and that they have used it in war, right? And when I did, Aurora said, "Mommy, I think we soon have to finish that call." And I said, "Why?" And she was like, "Well, the supervisor's already, she was doing this, with the eyes, turning around like I'm crazy, right? And speaking about those things. So now you can see how this is manipulated. So everything that I shared with them openly, and I said, well, because she said, you cannot speak about war. And I was like, why? It really happened. It's real. They use chlorine in war. And, as you can see, everything was suppressed, manipulated. Mommy is crazy. So you don't know what they're actually doing with them. And also my children, I've never seen them that way. They were, you know them. They are so powerful. They know their rights. And there must be something going on very sinister, because since then they don't allow me to have a private phone call or normal visits. Everything is supervised, everything is monitored, because I'm not speaking in a manner for which is suitable for a child. As you can see, everything is just a made up, all tactics.
All part, yes, of the psychological programming, because they're controlling that, yes, to get a desired outcome of separating the child from the motherly love in this case, and in most cases, definitely. All right, shall I go on to our next point?
How many points do you have, in fact?
I was just gonna look, thank you. We've got, whoa, got 18. We're only on 7,
Yeah, we
but
may split to another one, a part 2, I guess.
but how long have we been here now on this?
I think around 2 hours or something.
We've been that long? Well, let's go a
Yeah.
few more then. Then yeah, we'll do part 2. But also we've covered so much that it's possible some of these points we have covered. Yeah. All right. The next thing, the missing over 20,000 refugee children missing in Austria, still unaccounted for. And also it's over 20,000 missing in Italy too, around the same time. And I
Yes,
think Germany was maybe 13,000. I forget.
but you have
So
to
you
say
had
those numbers are the unaccompanied minors,
unaccounted for.
meaning
Yes.
like they coming, for example, from Ukraine, from the war without parents.
Company. Yes.
Yes,
Yeah. And so there's no tracking, no records, no exit data, because this is not given to the public, and that's why these children are still unaccounted for. Um, and Austria is part of a larger European disappearance pipeline, which it is very extensive. And up in the Netherlands as well, you get many reported cases of children that are refugee children that are just more or less vanishing. So the system is either complicit or catastrophically negligent. So that's number 7. Can I go to number 8? Yes.
yes,
All right. New witness intimidation patterns. So again, with this, parents are pressured not to speak, keep silent, let the lawyers handle it, if you will, and that doesn't work. But also what we touched on, where Sister Nya, when she was attempting to speak with the children, her dialogue or her conversation was controlled, so pressured not to speak openly with the children. The topics had to be approved, if you will, which is nonsense. Um, the workers are afraid to report the internal abuses. BH offices showing fear of exposure, not confidence in legality. And we're beginning to see this without going deep in to what number 8 means. But what I will say is that in the future, you'll see more things. We're just touching on some things that, let's say, we have evidence of and testimony of in the back that we didn't put these things out because one of the reasons they're still connected to ongoing cases being investigated in the least. But also, yeah, I'll just leave that one there. That was like a little sketchy one. I'll go anything to add to that one before I go to the next one.
Just go ahead.
All right, number 9. Complete administrative collapse of truth processing. No one checks facts. False statements accepted as truth. Real evidence ignored. Officials rely on internal notes that contradict reality. And that's part of the fabrication we were speaking about. This makes lawful governance impossible, which it does. It's absolutely absurd when nothing is based on truth. There is no law and there is no lawful governance. So it's a complete collapse of the administration.
I also have to add, they don't give you access, to the child welfare case as well. So, but also sometimes they even don't have any notes or documentation as well. So I just want to add this.
Oh, they say that, yeah, but by law they're supposed to have, and
Yes,
then miraculously, oh, I don't have anything. No, I don't need to. And you say, well, it says here in the law you've got to keep records. Well, they'll say, well, I didn't.
yes,
So,
exactly.
absolutely. The ombudsperson's office is compromised. So their failure to act, as Sister Nya alluded to earlier, conflicts of interest, communication suppression, no follow through. But I will say we're starting to see a little bit of follow through just recently, where let's say, I believe some documents that was tested to the ombudsman place that they did forward them without going deep into that. That is correct, right, sister? What I just said? Yes.
Um, I think you're talking about the submission last year in August 2024, where they have actually wrote a letter. This was what they have done, if you are referring to this.
Not exactly,
All
but
right.
that's more, I guess, to come out. It just happened more recently, but nevertheless. Um, yeah. So it's instead of accountability in the ombudsman office, it's functioning as a shield as well, meaning that it's supporting the crimes, what it's looking like, rather than ensuring the people's rights are heard. So it was actually functioning opposite. I do feel and I do think, though, with this office that what I will say is we began to witness some change, that perhaps they are beginning to function like they're supposed to.
The thing is, they already have put it out, publicly and saying they have no enforcement, right? They cannot
Oh,
put anything,
wow.
but also,
Well, yeah. So
if
then what's the use of having them?
yes, exactly. So, the latest thing I know from them is, in the moment you would file something or submit something to them, they would still cooperate, with the department, try to talk things out or to change things, which doesn't make any changes. In the same time, that specific ombudsman said talked about some specific changes and reformation, but the thing is, honestly, it's just like nothing. I'm sorry, it's just an illusion. It
It's
doesn't have,
controlled as well. To keep it simple, it's obvious
but they
that
also
it
don't
was
know human rights and absolute laws as well. So
so they're not qualified and they're not educated and qualified. They're not professional to even be sitting then in that place of moral care and duty
this,
of
this is
care to the people.
yes, but this is an ongoing thing through all, almost
Mhm.
all departments, judicial systems. Quite rare, but I don't have too much, with I would
Yeah, not so much on that, but
yeah,
we had
but
to
for those
mention it.
that I had contact, I would say they were not qualified, not in my opinion.
Yes, because of their actions. And we had that
Yes,
all documented as evidence as well, but we're not going deep into that.
yes.
All right, the next one is what we have is what we have seen with Diaconi and Caritas and SOS Kinderdorf, the involvement there. And what it is with the NGOs, they're shown to hide or distort facts for the simple reason one of the things is that most of their money comes from the government. We did a look at some of the numbers and did some of the math on this, and I believe it's over 75% of the money comes from the governments. And, this is supposed to be a non government organization. So there is the distortion of the facts there. Um, and internal studies possibly fabricated or kept secret. And because one of the things we began to discover, and I think the other news also reported on this, that the numbers are not adding up as well. And we need to say that these NGOs are part of that administrative pipeline. They're not neutral observers. And it's a big part as well of the money trail that's involved with this whole child abduction business, I will say. Anything to add there before I move to the next one? I think we'll get through all these because these are pretty easy ones, the rest.
I just want to add one thing to connect more dots. Is recently in Austria, for example, they had to show where the money is flowing, especially, for politicians. They actually did make a full disclosure, meaning like the money that runs to specific NGOs was not openly shown. So as you can see, NGOs are also somehow, tied to specific politicians, or, they sometimes have companies. It's not transparent, I also have to say, and also, with funding or donations that are made, in between. So just to
Yeah,
add this,
asking for money from the public and saying they couldn't exist without it when they're being majority funded from the government itself. So it's a double dip, if you will. But also with this, and just say yes or no, please. Um, with some forensic auditing investigation, what you had found And what we had found is that the numbers were not adding up in respect to these NGOs. Yes or no?
Yes. The thing is also yes.
Yeah, the numbers weren't adding up with a financial audit, a forensic audit with the money.
Yes, I think
Correct?
yes.
Yeah. Um, Showing that there's money that is not accounted for, if you will, because it what it does, it indicates and it alludes to some other market of money, what it's involved in. And when you don't have the transparency, it could be, let's say, trillions of dollars. No one knows how much it is if it's not accounted for. But without saying how we do things with our forensic audits, let's just say what we could see, what was given, was not adding up. Keep it simple. Um, so during Sister Nya's case, there has been numerous liens that have been sent out to individuals and also the Republic of Austria and its main insurers as well. Um, there has been no move by any of those to pay these liens and set up the trust accounts, which they were instructed to do for the victims that are already beginning to come forward, and also to compensate and remedy Sister Nya and her children for the psychological harm and other crimes that have been perpetrated upon her. But having said this, all liens were accepted without rejection. I think all of them except one, or I think now they've all been accepted. But what is important is also there are liens that are put directly into the judicial system that were not rejected as well. And even though the legal system, if you will, um, even though what occurs if the legal system is unjust, then what it does, it validates all the liens, whether they're in the system or outside. So we have both places covered. And the outside is the lawful system, because when you have a legal system that is corrupt, it is unlawful, it is illegal. So then all jurisdiction supersedes to the lawful jurisdiction outside of the legal system. And this is where we come from. And this is where any of you parents that are watching this, you can also put your liens from the outside, simply because if the inside is criminal, then your place to put it is on the outside, to keep it simple. Um, and do Yes, and these liens are used as international lawful evidence as well. Um, and with the Financemat case, with that, I believe this is it's the case where we had where they were beginning to insolvency and liquidation, if you will. But what we need to say is that a lien also is already upon that place. So any of their liquidation of assets is unlawful. And that is a thing still ongoing. But we just mentioned this because really the liens are lawful instruments already accepted, at least inside of the system, not rebuted. So it's not rebutted. So it means that they are lawful, and the system knows it. That's why they cannot refute what it is. So it's a matter of time. The Austrian system is crumbling, and this is the truth of it. Um, so what we can say, and what I say from my opinion here, is that Austria is now exposed as a central junction node between Italy and Germany for what's looking like also child trafficking, because there are the missing children that are still unaccounted for. So, what happened to them? And as we said, 20,000 to our knowledge has vanished in Austria. Where did they go? And we also, as we mentioned, see it, it's prevalent across Europe. Um, Now, with the medias, I think, did we mention this, that we sent notification uh, to all of the medias?
Yes.
No denials received, mean they're in receipt of them. We expose the unlawful insolvency attempt involving IKJF draws. Yeah, I got the other one mixed up. Some of these German words, if you will, please forgive me, because we're dealing with so many institutions and I'm not familiar with the names in German of them. So we're looking at, the laws broken. Sister Nyan knows them, and thank you so much for correcting me when you need to. Um, so notice number 53 we put out, expose the unlawful insolvency attempt involving the IKJF draws. That was the one I spoke about before. Uh, and notice 54 continued exposing structural fraud in child welfare institutions. So we have issued notices in this respect. 52, 53, and 54 are public notices, and also all public notices can be seen at our Absolute Law website. And very quickly, we interviewed Cece, um, was the last mom that we interviewed, and we're seeing a mirroring with that case. It's the same judge as involved in Sister Nya's, same psychologist, same BH pattern, same procedural violations, at least some of the same. And this, you know, begins to prove the systemic pattern. It's not isolated wrongdoing, it's intentional. So, with that, sister, I believe we're almost through it.
Wow, amazing. I think we wanted
Yeah,
also, to touch on there's a organization in Austria which is called SNAP. I think it's also worldwide, which is there, for the victims and the survivor of sexual abuse from the church. Yes, I just brought
yes,
that in
thank you.
for you
Because
to.
that come up, thank you, yeah, in our investigation. So another thing, what we have been doing worldwide is informing churches of this case as well, and calling the churches in to stand, because it's blatant harm against the children and the families. And in this specific cases, the moms and the children. And it is written within the Bible that the children and the moms, if you will, are to be protected. So, what this means is that the church are divinely obligated and morally obligated to stand, let's say, in solidarity with all of the moms, and they've been informed. And with this, nothing back. And we've also informed the Vatican, I think, more than once on this case, because they do worldwide supposedly have an influence. Nothing, zilch. But also, what we were finding is because with the churches and child abuse in Austria as well, that the churches don't want to say anything as well because of their past scandals, and perhaps it's still ongoing and they don't wish to be seen. I don't know. But what is factual is that there's been past proven cases that it did exist. And so, yeah, we need to bring that up. With the media, again, it's important. What we suggest for anyone watching this now or later, this is free to share anywheres worldwide, and it is watched worldwide as it is. But the more you get this out, know that you're assisting other parents that have had their children already taken, because what we are doing is also educating you to defend yourself as well until this whole system is broken open. And what it takes is the people to do it, because what you're seeing, the entire judicial system in Austria is compromised. You're not going to get any satisfaction out of it. In times like this, the only way is for the people to unite and stand, because the people are the power, and the government would not exist if not for the people voting that government in. And the people need to know that when this government and this judicial system acts contrary to law, then the moral obligation lays with the people themselves, because you actually voted these ones in, if you will, the political parties to represent you. So it becomes your personal obligation to speak up and to speak the truth, and also unite with the people. Enough is enough. This has to stop. These are children's lives at stake. And also the family being ripped and torn apart, so many families. And it is the system, as we say, it is no excuse anywheres worldwide by the system to say that you cannot financially provide for the children, because the system, capitalistic system, is the core cause that creates poverty. So you cannot have the system creating the problem of poverty and then coming in and punishing you for something that the system did. That's absurd. It's ridiculous. And with this, anyone that is sharing these videos, share them in all of the moms and dads, um, children's groups, that are trying to get your children back. But also, if you find it might not be getting very many views, what we do also is send it to messages to others, and then it circulates unseen, if you will, by the system that may be censoring it. So you get it around, and this is how it works. See, the real truth is, people, you cannot be silenced at all. It doesn't matter how much that a government may censor what you're putting out. You always have the word of mouth that they cannot take away from you. And you also have other ways of sharing things, like on a USB stick, download the video, give it to someone important, give it to, and if you give it to the medias, and if you give these to the lawyers in the medias, keep a record of it and put it out public who you give it to as well. and we encourage this. There is no restrictions or limitations, and no one needs to ask I or Sister Nya for permission to share this. Share it everywhere. All of everything we do. You
Yes,
have that.
great.
Yeah. And with the media, what we're seeing so far, it looks like the media in all of Austria is controlled, as I said, because this is such a blatant crime. And so the media looks like it's becoming complicit as well in this cover up, if you will, not putting the truth out. But let's see, we'll give them a few more days perhaps, and let's see. They'll they'll prove their self by their actions or non-actions. I love to see everyone working together. So we always give the benefit of the doubt with, let's say, 40 plus news agencies in Austria, all at the same time, get the news out to all the people. So do that in the next couple days, even the next day, if you will. Get it out to the people. This has to end. And it's obvious that you, the people, are the only ones to do it, to unite and stand up, because we've given this incontestable case to all levels of government in Austria and different countries worldwide, and to churches and to media. And this is an incontestable case that shows huge systemic crime. This is an unprecedented, I need to say, this is unprecedented what we're doing. So there should not be this silence on it. Anything to add, sister?
No, you did perfect.
You did as well. We got it done. Yes.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. It's good. I didn't have to move my chair. Looks like the tide's going out now. Yeah, it looks like the water's getting lower there where I'm at. So. And the sun's out. Look at that. Woo!
Yeah.
All right. Well, love, light, and gratitude, everyone. And I'll stop the